what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trailblazers fall to the Golden State Warriors 110-106 in the Bay. The Blazers were led by Anthony Simons, his first game since the first game of the season. He dropped in 28. Shaedon Sharpe, 3 games in a row now with 25 or more points. He had 26, but 31 from Steph Curry carries the Golden State Warriors. San Diego Padres have traded Juan Soto to... Oh, that's right. The Yankees get all the good players again. So the Yankees bring in Juan Soto in the blockbuster deal. Thursday night football tonight. If you like punts, this one's for you. Mitch Trubisky versus Billy Zappi in an epic matchup of Thursday night football on Prime Video. And an agreement was reached between the two schools. Civil War will continue officially for the next 2 years, but more likely beyond, as Oregon will travel to Oregon State in 2024 for a September 14th matchup at Reser. Hour 1 of RCM starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Thursday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us. We're staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Thursday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. Oh, so close last night. I was right there. I feel like this is going to be the future of the Portland Trailblazers for, well, at least this season and moving forward. Hopefully, this could be a building block. But, man, what an opportunity lost. What an opportunity lost last night. You essentially had the lead. The Blazers had the lead in around... I'm doing rough estimate math, but I would say about 92% of actual game time, the Blazers had the lead in this game. You got the stop. Seconds remaining, down 1. Ant and Shaedon are going off. Golden State can't defend them. No DA. No Jeremy Grant. Brogdon goes out in the first half. You got the baby Blazers going ballistic against the wagon that is the Golden State Warriors. 4 Hall of Famers on this team. Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. 4 Hall of Famers. All play. Tumani Kamara. Now, hopefully he's going to do great things for this Portland Trailblazers organization. I know a lot of people are very much liking Tumani Kamara and what he's been able to do, but it's YMCA basketball fundamentals that if you are under the other team's basket, you don't just throw the ball willy-nilly. Got the rebound, got the stop. Again, stops, the rebounds, the effort. Tip of the cap to Chauncey Billups. Like, he's got these boys playing. And Kamara's falling backwards. Dude, we got 2 timeouts. Now is the time to, that's when you burn one. Instead, he decided to try to make I don't know what was going on, honest to goodness. I don't know what was going on with Kamara as he was falling backwards out of bounds under Golden State's hoop. Tries to make a pass. It is errant at best. Golden State gets it. Boom, boom, boom. Of course, what is it about the sports universe? Honestly, I don't try to get too, spacey and cosmic, but man, just something in the sports universe that after that play, and I realized, look, this is a regular season game in early December, and the Blazers got a lot of things moving forward, and I think a lot of positives moving forward. The fact that without 2 starters on the floor, and really without a third, because Malcolm Brogdon went out early in this game, the fact you had the Golden State Warriors, had them, tells me that this team, when healthy, when they're at their... They're going to be able to compete. Don't know if they're going to be able to win a lot of games, but they're going to be able to compete. This is not going to be a team, I feel, that is going to get their doors blown off night in and night out. There's certainly going to be those games. And there's going to be rookie mistakes, like, when you're falling out of bounds with 2 timeouts, down 1 in the final seconds of the game, and you can ultimately have the last shot maybe call that timeout right there. Don't burn that timeout. Just saying. Now, it's real easy. Hindsight, right? It's real easy for morning show guy to sit here and start telling this elite athlete. But, I mean, come on. Dude, we're falling out of bounds. We got 2 timeouts. We got to play a little bit smarter than that. But
I mean, isn't that part of it, Justin, just the growing pains of playing with a young team and specifically a rookie in this case? Or is that too easy of an excuse?
I think it's too easy of an excuse on this one. Now, I don't think Tamani Kamara is going to be making this mistake. Who knows if he's ever been in that position again. And like I said, sports are weird. But that's kind of basic. That's like middle school fundamentals. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, ball under the other team's basket. Don't throw it. It'd be better if he had just fallen out of bounds and he could set up a defense. But, like, cosmically, of course, the ball's going to end up in Steph Curry's hands. And, of course, Steph Curry's. And I'm watching it, and it's just like, and the ball goes up, and I'm just like, at that point, I was like, all right, bedtime for Justin. Because I'm like, I know that's going in. Nobody on this Golden State team is going to be able to make or going to miss a free throw. Good night, all. But had him. Shaedon Sharpe, 42 minutes last night. He dropped in 26. He's had 3 games now in a row, starting to kind of find his groove. And again, there's going to be some ups and downs, but he went 26, 25, 29 the last 3 games. It's nice to see Anthony Simons back. I'm very curious if, and this is a big ol' if, but if this Blazer team ever gets 100% healthy, I'm fascinated to see what Chauncey Billups going to be able to do. Again, I say this all the time. Early on in this season, we shall be making observations, not conclusions, right? It is very foolish. Before Christmas happens, before the stockings are hung by the chimney with care, it is foolish to be making conclusions instead of observations with regard to NBA basketball. Before the new year comes along and you drink maybe more champagne because you're not used to drinking champagne, it is foolish to be making conclusions as opposed to observations. So we shall make an observation. But this observation, Brendan, from what I have seen this year, in the circumstances that are presented in front of him, Chauncey Billups can coach. Man, I think Chauncey Billups can coach. We talked, and this was not a criticism. It was simply a fact. His first 2 years, the Blazers were in full-on tank mode. And the question was, do we know if Chauncey Billups can coach? And it's a fair question. Usually you say that when that's a leading question, right? I learned that I took an interview seminar one time, and somebody was like, Justin, I've heard your interviews. You took an interview seminar. You should ask for your money back. And believe it or not, it was way worse. But I took an interview seminar one time, and you learn certain things about, like, what to avoid. And one of them is leading questions in an interview setting and avoiding triggering statements, right? You throw out a triggering statement, all of a sudden somebody gets emotional. You're not going to get the information. You're going to get emotion. Your job is an interview, but, like, so if you were to say, boy, I don't know if this guy can coach, that sounds pretty negative. It sounds pretty triggering. It sounds like you are leading with an opinion as opposed to actually asking a question, right? We do that all the time. I'm just asking questions here. Like, clearly you've got an agenda. This one, I was serious. Like, with Chauncey Billups, we don't know. We don't know if he can coach. He's a tremendous player. He's a champion. He's a Hall of Famer. Good analyst on TV. Good basketball executive guy, right? Player personnel things. 1 season on the bench with the Clippers. Gets the job with the Blazers. By November, his GM's fired. By December, the entire team got COVID. And by New Year's Eve, and I know it because I got COVID, the season was over, right? The season was over. First year. It's like, yeah, good luck. By February, massive amount of your talent's traded away. And here we go. Second year in, couple of moves here and there. But Damian Lillard's injured. They drafted a 19-year-old rookie who's going to take some time, bringing him along slowly. And then, boom, by January, more February, back to tank mode again. Back to tank mode again. Shut down Dame. Let's get some ping pong balls. Try to get that big, tall French kid. If not, maybe get this point guard out of Vegas. But those 2 years, more games than not, Chauncey Billups was asked, whether directly or indirectly, but I think it was directly, was asked, hey, coach, please lose these games. Now, how do you coach that, right? How do you coach? For a guy who has never coached ever at the head coaching level, not even like, I'm sure maybe he coached like his kids or something, I don't know. But for a guy who's never coached at the head coaching level in the NBA or in college or even in high school, and his first 2 years, more games than not, you ask him, Coach, can you lose these games for us, please? That'd be great. Timeout wise, yeah, don't worry about them. Don't even use them. Like, they remember those games last year where it's like, Blazers end the game with about 4 timeouts left in their pocket because team goes on a run, not necessarily a bad thing. And it's like, we're not going to call a timeout to stop a run. We're just going to, hey, we got to work through it, boys. So
like I've said all season, Justin, maybe the mentality from the top has changed, but do you still think that ultimately they will end up not self-choosing the tank, but tanking simply by the fact that this team is still very young? I mean, you look at it last night, right? Tumani Kamara is obviously a rookie. I don't think that Duop Reith is a rookie. Or no, he is. Okay, so
yeah, he's a rookie. Scoot's a rookie. Shaden's a second-year player.
Right. Chris Murray played some good minutes last night. Jabari Walker's a third-year guy. So do you think that, like, going back to what we talked about with Devon Pouncey on Tuesday, do you think that they'll just try to get as much, see what happens for the next month before they potentially look at moving on from some veterans and then really leaning back into that? Because, Justin, I'm asking you right now.
Ask me the question.
If you were to get Joe Cronin with the truth serum and you said, would you rather have your pick this year or give it to Chicago? What do you think the answer is?
That's a good question. I don't know. Because, again, now, I dabble a little bit in college basketball. Feast week. Oh, boy, I love a good old Feast week game, right? Maui Invite. Jackson Shellstad's a dog, by the way. I'm so pumped for that guy this year. Hopefully, Oregon can make a run in the tournament. But Jackson Shellstad, that is my dude. I'm all in on Shellstad. Local kid. Buries a shot. Try that, Michigan. But I don't know, like, is there a Wembanyama this year? Right? Is there a Scoot Henderson this year? Is there a Thompson twins? Heck, is there even a Shaden this year? That's where I wonder, right? We talk about all these picks, and all right, is it like last night? Yeah, it's a good effort, but they lost, and ultimately, is that loss not so bad because then you stay in the lottery? But, like, lottery picks ultimately have to become players at some point. So the Blazers, and who are these players? And I am ignorant to that fact. I don't know what's going on with the Ignite. It sounds like the Ignite stink. I heard that.
They miss Scoot
Ignite kind of stink.
They miss Scoot Henderson,
You
man.
think?
But no, the Blazers, Justin, are due to, you're right, there's not a Wembanyama, but it is still what they consider to be a pretty deep draft.
There's another big old French guy out there, isn't there?
Yeah, that's Alexandre Sarr. He is same kind of potential, but
like 7'2", though, and not 7'4".
But to answer your question, they'll have their own as long as they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Probably
They've
not making the
also
playoffs.
got Golden State's coming in this year, too.
Golden State's 10-11 right now.
As long as Golden State is not one of the worst 3 teams in the NBA, which I don't think they'll be bottom 3. I think they'll be pretty tough with Steph Curry and company.
Is Golden State going to be like the new Lakers, where like they think they can just turn it on and turn it off, but like at some point they're just like, guys, we got to flip the switch, and like it's a little bit late. But regardless, going back to like the original point, which was, are they going to go to an active tank? I've been calling it a soft tank all year, which is things like, hey, Malcolm, your knee a little sore? Yeah, you're not coming back in the second half. We're going to let the kids play, get some ice on it, maybe get in the whirlpool a little bit. DeAndre, a little sore? Yeah, let's just take the night off.
We got to play it real safe with our big men.
Yeah,
just
real
saying.
safe. Even like Jeremy Grant, how is the vision? A little blurry still? Nah. Let's give it one more day. Like, they're going to do that throughout the season. But I don't know if they're going to get, and maybe I'll be completely wrong by February. I don't know if it's going to be let's shut it. You can't afford to shut down the young kids. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I want Scoot Henderson and Shaden to play all season long and just let the chips fall where they may, or let the ping pong balls bounce where they bounce. But because you can see it last night, right? Scoot needs to figure some things out, but again, rookie, get the reps. Played 26 minutes last night, but yeah, the three-pointer's going to be a problem. That three-pointer's going to be a problem. He's missing bad. I wonder if, is it getting to be a mental thing? Because he's missing bad.
It's early enough not to still be super concerned about it, but yeah.
So as my parents used to say, well, keep an eye on that. You know? Not super concerned. I'm going to keep an eye on it, though. All right. There's also big news that came out yesterday. Hey, who's pumped for second week of September rivalry games next year as Oregon is not Brendan? Brendan just shot me a look like,
I'll say this.
I see what you're doing.
I'll say this as a tease.
And I don't like it.
I'll say this as a tease before we leave, Justin. There is one silver lining of all this. We might get an 80-degree Civil War.
We might get a 95-degree Civil War.
I'm all for that. 100%. That's the only positive I can draw.
Tailgating's going to be much more comfortable, but so we're going to talk about the deal I think the deal is a good deal. I think it's tough to look into the future at this particular point because we live in an immediate society, but for the long haul, I think this is a good move. And also, I think for the short term, it's a good move for both schools. I'll tell you why coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks ago from tomorrow. Does that make sense? I'd made it very complicated. Either way, when Oregon State played, what we thought was maybe potentially the final Civil War there at Autzen Stadium, and the clock hit 000, and before the fuel got into the private jet, headed to East Lansing for Jonathan Smith to hop on the next morning. We thought maybe potentially for a rivalry that predates the turning of the century. Not this one, the last one. A rivalry that goes back to the 1800s. A rivalry that only took a 2-year break because of World War II. And a rivalry that has defined generations of sports fans in this great state that we live in. Whether you grew up with the rivalry back in the 60s when both teams stunk and it was just trying to get a win at the end of the year, right? It is the old DeAndros, right? The right to live in the state, or whether it was the years into the 80s and the 90s when Oregon started to separate itself a little bit, and all of a sudden, the Nike guys started cutting some checks, and then whether it was into the 2000s when it was seemingly every year home team's just going to win, and then ultimately where this rivalry ended up, which looked like the final time. But there was always something, right? I argue with Oregon fans all the time. And maybe I'm in the minority. I always thought I was the saying the quiet part out loud. I have always believed that Oregon and Oregon State, that's the rivalry. That's the game. Yeah, it stinks when you lose to Washington. It is way worse when you lose to Oregon State. And to me, that is the definition of a rivalry. How bad does the losses hurt? And how good can a win save your season? And can a loss ruin your season? And I, as an Oregon fan, have had way more holidays ruined or amplified by the game between Oregon and Oregon State, way more than the Oregon-Washington game. But it's not going to be like that anymore because greed, money, conference realignment, college football changing for the worse, not for the better. But it looked as though that was going to be it. At least it was going to be it as we now know it. Right? Gone are the days of the Thanksgiving debate. Right? You get the family together and you get enough Oregonians in a room, you're going to have a mixed match of green and yellow and orange and black. You get enough of them. Families divided. Whole family's an Oregon family. What happened here? Well, Billy went to Oregon State. He decided he wanted to be an engineer. And we thought maybe that was going to be it. Well, as it turns out, cooler heads prevailed, at least from the administration level. And as we have learned with everything in this world, money talks and baloney, because I can't say the other phrase. You can say that phrase, the other phrase on ESPN. Can't say it on the radio.
Podcasts?
You can say it on podcast. Yep. You can say it in the middle of the day on ESPN.
Was not aware of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They say it all the time now.
Oh, really?
Your tank top buddy. Says it all the time now.
My buddy. You see, now, you say that to trigger me.
I am.
So, good for you, man. Needles. Hey, I like a little tit for tat action for sure. But yeah, no. Go ahead.
Money talks and baloney walks, and a deal was struck, which it's never going to be the way it was. I understand. Never going to be the way it was. But I like the fact that this rivalry is going to continue. I like the fact that both teams are going to be playing each other, and I hope they play each other for the foreseeable future, long into the future. Who knows what is going to happen in the world of college football? It is such an unknown. But Oregon and Oregon State will play each other on September the 14th. That's going to be a trip at Reser Stadium. So why was this deal done? Couple of reasons, in my humble opinion. First and foremost, from an Oregon State standpoint, and again, Brendan, you have the orange challenge flag when I talk about Oregon State. Normally, I'll give you the red coach's challenge flag, but this is the orange challenge flag. First and foremost, this deal was done for money. It was done for money. That is a guaranteed sellout game. It's a guaranteed sellout game. The ticket prices are going to be put at a premium. You are not, at Oregon State, in the foreseeable future, going to be able to get any Power 4 team to come to Reser Stadium and play a game. It's going to be very, very difficult for the foreseeable future.
And they do have Purdue next year.
They got Purdue because they scheduled that one like 9 years ago. All right, they got Purdue.
They've got a few.
And I've heard like Virginia's in the mix too. We'll see if the ACC is still a power conference in a couple years.
Yeah, take it down the line, Justin. But
there's a conversation with Cal going on, right?
Yeah, like for instance, like here's a good example. Like next year, not like 2025, they have a matchup with Texas Tech. 2026, I know they've got a matchup with Ole Miss. So it's like there are still some
the ones that have been negotiated over the years.
It helps.
Some of those might get bought out. Who knows? But like you said, I think it's going to be tougher to be able to get I don't want to say marquee opponents. That sounds snooty. But tougher to get a Power 4 opponent because, again, we're in a world now where with an expanded playoff, and if you are a team in the SEC or a team in the Big 10 or even in the Big 12, but more the two other big conferences, you're like, yeah, I'm not. I already got a game at Ann Arbor and I got a game at Madison. I'm not going to Corvallis. So money-wise, boom, you get every single year a guaranteed sellout. There it is. One game every year, no matter what, or shouldn't say every year, every other year. Every other year in the home and home agreement, hopefully for the foreseeable future, but especially into next year, you get a marquee matchup with your rival, and you get a guaranteed sellout. Now, from the Oregon perspective, because I had some friends call me yesterday and go, like, what? Why are you giving up a home game? It's like, well, Washington and Washington State skated this issue by basically saying, all right, let's start this new Apple Cup at Lumen Field. Unfortunately, and like, hey, Volcano Stadium off of I-5 is nice, but I don't know if that's the neutral field we want to play this game. Like, there's no neutral field. Can't play it. Can't play it at a neutral field. And I would imagine, I don't know if it was floated, but I would imagine it was probably floated, hey, let's start it at Autzen next year since Oregon's given up a home game. And if I'm Scott Barnes, the AD at Corvallis, like, no. That ain't going to happen. We need this home game now. And so I think from an Oregon perspective, it's a very low risk, good PR move, I believe. Now, some of the Beaver believers, maybe most of the Beaver believers, maybe all of the Beaver believers say, Justin, take your PR move and shove it. I get it. Understand it. But at some point, when cooler heads do prevail, I do think this will ultimately be a good move that both of these teams are going to be playing each other each and every year, and that this rivalry is not going to die, and that potentially down the road, who knows what's going to happen in college football, but financially keeping your head above water, this is a good move. I understand the emotion and the vitriol and the anger, and and this is the thing that there's always been, and I guess I should ask, since we have Oregon State Insider, he's the proprietor, the CEO, the owner of BeaversEdge.com. He's also known as super producer Brendan. There's always kind of been like an animosity there, right? Save me your charity, Oregon. Save me, like you, all your fancy uniforms. Save me your Nike funding and all that. It always feels like there's a bit of an animosity there that I think has kind of built up more or less over the last 15 years. Is that fair to say?
You see, for me, it's not so much like growing up, Justin, everything you just said, absolutely true. Since I've become, an adult and chose to do journalism and everything that I do, I don't hate Oregon. It's a respect. But it's at the same token, it's like.
Yeah, but what about the believers, though? I feel like
it's pretty split. There are those who, just going over to Beaver's Edge, there are those who are angry and sad to see this game played, and those who are like, well, it seems like a necessary evil. But the general consensus is, if you're Oregon State, other than all the money that can be made from and maybe that's not the other, maybe that's the reason why, but it's like, given what we've seen fall by the wayside for Oregon State in this last week, and quarterback changes and all, like, this could be a bloodbath for Oregon State, and that's where I don't know if the fans are going to enjoy it, because, Justin, the fans aren't the ones who see that money reciprocated.
Yeah.
It probably goes to pay for men's rowing. Let's not kid ourselves. So that part of it is where it's
Dude, those guys used to go out so early in the morning, out there on the Willamette, right there.
Imagine getting on the Willamette today.
I used to work at a golf course. I used to go like up early, and it's like, they got in early on the rowing crew. But anyways, I don't want to get lost on this.
Is that fair, you think?
Yeah, that's fair. It is. Look, like I said, if it were shoe on the other foot, me, because you know me, I'm a think you're better than me. I don't need your charity.
See, like, I know.
Like, shoe on the other foot, I get it. But I'm thinking it's hard to think long term because it is so unknown, right? Oregon State's heading out like, like Magellan. Like, where are we going? I don't know. I would say Christopher Columbus, but turns out he's a bad guy.
Very bad.
Is Magellan less, like...
Notice how they don't teach the kids to say, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 anymore. Yeah, do some... Justin said, do your research on Liberty, do your research on old Christopher.
Dude, he was gnarly.
Just saying.
That guy was cutthroat. Anyway, so Magellan's like, he's still a cool explorer, right? He went out like, he went even past where all the other guys went. They're like, you guys going there? Oh, I'm going to take a left and go down South America. Didn't know it was called South America back then, but that's the waters that Oregon State is exploring right now, right? They're still trying to put together a full schedule. I think last I counted, they got 11 games next year. Does that sound about right? Off the top of your head, they got 11 games next year?
11 right now?
Yeah.
I think they're trying to get to 12.
Yeah. Well, they have to. So I got a thought on this. Tell me what you think about this. So obviously you're playing Oregon, playing Purdue, playing Boise. Well, no, is Boise part of the non-conference agreement, or is that the previously scheduled game?
Previously scheduled.
All right.
So I would assume.
So you get Boise plus 6 other.
And then Idaho State's your FCS team.
Boom.
So
and
right
then
now
you got
you only have
and then you got a game against the Cougs.
Yeah, so you've got what? Right now, as of what we know, they've got 3 in the non-conference, a game against Washington State, a game against Oregon. That's 5, and then the other 7 will be announced.
The 6 from
Mountain West.
Mountain West. So there's 11.
And then the 1.
So here's my idea for the 1. Tell me what you think about this. Because nothing is the
Cal?
same.
Heard that thrown out there, too.
Yeah, heard Cal, heard Virginia.
Yeah.
No.
Odd answers, but yeah, whatever.
Here's my thought. Because, again, what we all thought college sports is no longer. And with conference championship game, you know what they should do? Honest to goodness. Because, again, talk about revenue, extra home. Washington State and Oregon State should play each other twice. Do a home and home. Well, I know, well, Justin, we don't do that. Why not? You do it. Oregon just played Washington twice.
Would you rather play the Cougs twice than have a team like a Virginia or Cal?
Because Oregon State and Washington State with the Pac-12 assets, you guarantee an extra home game for yourself every single year. You can sell it as the Pac-2 championship, get a corporate sponsor thrown on there, right? Anything is open at this point in time, right? Brendan, there's no umbrellas in a brainstorm, right? Why not play the Cougs twice? I know we joked when they were the last 2 teams standing, like, are they going to play each other like 7 times? Why not play the Cougs twice? Play one in Pullman and play one in Corvallis.
Well, I hate going to Pullman. So the Beavers want to sign themselves up for that, Justin?
Have you ever been to Pullman?
No, well, I just mean like Oregon.
It's a beautiful place.
No, I just mean like Oregon.
The rolling hills of the Palouse. Now, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and you think El Paso is hard to get to. Pullman.
See, no, I could drive to Pullman.
You could drive to Pullman.
But yeah, I guess I could drive to El Paso too.
I've made that drive. Trust me, I know. Grandma lived in Las Cruces, New Mexico, 40 minutes from El Paso. Yeah. Made that drive 2nd grade.
It's impressive. Woo. But yeah, I mean,
took like 2 weeks. It was the worst.
I think I would rather do like a.
Why don't you play the Cougs twice? Guarantee yourself a home game. guarantee, reciprocate the home game. Both you corporate sponsor it, you sell it, you put it on TV.
You could sell me on it, but as I think about it right now, I'm like, I'd rather not play a team twice unless it's like for a champ. Like, what if one team is like 2-9, right? No, just.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I don't know what
like the Beavers and Cougars, Justin.
We could play the what if games right all the time.
Sure. But like, considering what we've seen Washington State and Oregon State lose, they could both be in pretty tough situations the next 2 years on the field. So, I mean, Washington State, Justin, they're going to go quarterback. Quarterback's maybe the top dude in the portal. So, you think they're done getting gutted? So
I know that's it's gonna. But I'm talking about like looking into the future.
Sure.
Or put a Band-Aid on whatever is going on. I know. Look, Taylor told us Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. I get it.
Shout out Taylor.
No, I got bad blood. I get it. I understand where the bad blood's coming from. But I would just say, play the Cougs twice. You get a guarantee. The Cougs got a guarantee game with Washington. Oregon State's got a guarantee game with Oregon. You play each other. Boom. There's 4 Pacific Northwest games right there. You could call it the Cascade Cup or whatever. I don't know. Get Columbia Sportswear to sponsor it. I mean, I don't know if Nike would get in on that.
No, probably not.
Probably not. But Columbia and Nike, are they adversaries? I don't think so. I think they're like, look, you don't make the shoes, and we will.
That would be like
we
saying,
won't worry about the rain jackets.
Does Coca-Cola worry about RC buying into its market share? I love Columbia, but it's kind of the RC.
But not when it comes to, if you want a rain gear.
Oh, yeah.
If it's all of a sudden, it's like the atmospheric river.
This is true.
Portland
Company, too.
Who's the mom? Remember the mom and the son? Remember? Who were those two guys? G starts with the G, maybe? Gert? Or Gretchen? Something like that? I got it. I'm sure it's going to be way wrong. Slippy? Slappy? Anywho.
Gert Boyle.
Gert!
Yes.
I knew it.
You were right with G's.
Still got it.
Samsonite. I was way off.
I knew it. Old Gert. She's like, remember she's like in the snowbank and the like. Anyways. All in all, I think this is a good move. I do. I understand there's emotion behind it.
You could convince me.
But I do see, like, I'm not, I want to be Captain Puppy Dogs and Rainbows. I want to be Mr. Positivity. I know that not everything is going to be a kumbaya. Like, this is a business arrangement, right? This is let's stay together for the kids, right? That's pretty much what it is. Right? That's
staying till the kids are 18.
Yeah, like until we find Oregon State finds themselves a conference. Like, let's just stay together. All right, we'll sleep in separate rooms a little bit. We'll just suck it up, and that's kind of what it feels like, right? Let's just stay together for the kid. But if the kids are oblivious, it could work. I don't know. I like the games. I'm fascinated by a September 14th Civil War game. Fascinated by it. Short sleeve Civil War game. It's going to be interesting. But all in all, there's money to be made. I like that the rivalry continues. And I think it's better to be optimistic about the future than pessimistic. It's real easy to be pessimistic, right? And I can understand where that pessimism comes from Oregon State, right? Is it going to be a Mountain West team, right? Keep paying attention to what's going on with the Big 12 is all I'm saying. Keep paying attention to what's going on with the Big 12 and keep paying attention to what's going on with the ACC. This conference realignment thing ain't done yet. That's why Oregon State's not joining the Mountain West. That's why they are staying with the Pac-2 and had an agreement. Keep your head above water. And playing this game helps keep your head. Yeah. It might be a rough game. It might be a rough game. Dylan Gabriel and Ben Gulbranson. That might be the matchup. Who knows if that's it. But that's checkers. Do you know what I mean? You got to play chess in this one and see what happens. Final thoughts, Brendan.
I just to put it in a word, and I butchered it last time. What does your wife say when she does not like something to eat?
It's icky.
That's kind of how I describe this feeling for a Beaver fan.
It's icky.
Yeah.
But there's no definition of icky. It's just it is what it is.
It's you like I said, you could convince me that this could be good, but as Oregon State fans sit here right now and it looks like Wow, you're doing this to save your fledgling athletic department.
Well, you're 27 right now. I have a hunch if I have a conversation with 32-year-old Brendan, I think we'll look back and go like, yeah, I think the right move was to stick around and keep playing this game. All right.
That'd be a good call.
College football world's getting weird. It is. It's getting weird. Somebody threw out an idea, another NIL idea, which I, once again, hate. And is Florida State potentially pondering not showing up to the Orange Bowl? Talk about that next. We go on campus, 620 Rip City Radio. still is the Florida State Seminoles. People are still talking about it. The fact that the undefeated ACC champions, because of an injury to their quarterback, was left out of the college football playoff, which essentially nullifies the college football playoff, by the way. It's now an exhibition. It's not a playoff. It's an exhibition. This was supposed to be what it was here to fix. It then once again broke it because we can't help ourselves in college football. But it set up a potential matchup with Georgia and Florida State. And I said, hey, if you're Florida State, based off of everything we know in college football, if you go toe-to-toe in the Orange Bowl and you beat Georgia and you are 14-0, 14-0 with a win against Georgia, with a win against LSU, with a win against Florida, with a undefeated ACC championship with wins over Clemson and Miami, might as well call yourself national champion. And somebody, somewhere, some publication will vote you national champion, and it actually will feel real. But to be able to do that, we got to beat Georgia. And to beat Georgia, you got to show up for the game. And apparently, there's some rumblings that may or may not happen. Let's go on campus. All right, yesterday sparked speculation as well as a VIP event for the Orange Bowl. That a lot of people, I think, paid a lot of money to attend, and it was supposed to be not only a VIP event, but a press conference and a meet and greet with the two head coaches, Mike Norvell and Kirby Smart. Well, neither one of them showed up, and a press conference with the two head coaches were canceled. Now, everybody said there's nothing insidious here. Get your tinfoil hats off. This is not a conspiracy. If I'm being perfectly honest, it's like, look, the moment that neither one of us made the college football playoff, we are trying to keep our players in the building because everybody wants to hit that transfer portal, and everybody's testing essentially the new college football free agent market. So I'm sorry, Orange Bowl. I don't got time to go to Miami to your little VIP event. I'm recruiting. Like, I don't know if you've seen this portal. It's nuts. Kirby Smart's like, yeah, my backup quarterback's gone. He's gone. Florida State's like, oh, backup quarterback. Try a third-string guy. That's how we won the ACC. But it did spark some conspiracy theories popping up, which got me thinking, what if Florida State just didn't show up? I mean, what if? There used to be decorum. There used to be, rules in these streets, rules of polite society. Those all kind of went out the window with COVID. Because remember, was it the Holiday Bowl? I believe it was the Holiday Bowl. UCLA was playing NC State. And UCLA's like, yeah, we don't have any players. They've all got COVID. But let's just not tell anybody, all right? Let's just be cool. And then the next day, NC State's sitting there going like, all right, Bruins, let's play some football. And Chip Kelly and the Bruins are like, yeah, we don't got any players. Sorry. Thanks for traveling all the way out here, but we're not going to be able to play. And really, for the first time, we saw a bowl game that was canceled. Could you imagine? Brendan, if Florida State just says, yeah, we're taking our ball and going home. Now, I think that would be a cowardly way to go about it, and I don't think they ever would because I still believe there's a chance at claiming a national championship. You beat Georgia, sorry about it. That's your national champion. You are. Maybe even more legitimate to whoever wins the college football playoff. Crazy as it sounds. So I don't think they're going to do it, but could you just imagine if you talk about Oregon State fans being upset and bitter and like, I don't want to play this Oregon game. Could you imagine being a Florida State? Just like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And they just don't show up. How crazy would that be?
It would send a statement.
Unfortunately, the statement would kind of...
Like, me, Justin.
The statement kind of falls a little flat. I see what you're saying, but I think the statement falls flat because we're going to 12 teams next year. You know what I mean? We're going to 12 teams next year. Florida State is the last team to get screwed this way. There will be teams screwed another way because that's what we do in our sport. Unfortunately for Florida State, they're the last team to get screwed this particular way. Much like in the previous system, I think it was Auburn was the last team to get screwed in that particular way. Like, we're undefeated. Yeah, you're not going to play 1 versus 2. But the conspiracy theories are out there. But Florida, they're going to play. But I was just thinking, like, what if they don't? What if they're just like, yeah, we'll see you there, Georgia. Gotcha. We're on our way. Bus trouble. Sorry. Never made it to Miami. All right. We got more Blazer talk coming up in hour number 2. Got some NFL talk coming up in hour number 3. We've got the big 3 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trail Blazers fall to the Golden State Warriors 110-106 at the Chase Center in the Bay yesterday. The return of Anthony Simons saw him lead the Blazers with 28 points. Shaedon Sharpe now with 3 games in a row of 25-plus points. He had 26, but 31 from Steph Curry, and a late collapse by the Blazers cost them the game on the road. Blockbuster deal in Major League Baseball. The San Diego Padres have traded Juan Soto to the New York Yankees in a 7-player deal. So the Yankees just get all the best players once again. And Thursday night football, if you like punting, this one is for you. Pittsburgh Steelers at home against the New England Patriots. Steelers 6-point favorite, but the over-under 30.5. Do you dare take the over? Coming up in hour number 3, we'll talk some Seahawks with friend of the program, Brady Henderson. But the big 3 in hour number 2 starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, welcome back to RCM. It is hour number 2. We got Make or Miss coming up this hour. We've got a Thirsty Thursday coming up this hour. Also, for those longtime listeners of the program, which, by the way, I could not thank you enough. I'm contemplating some things heading into the new year, right? New year, new you. I don't do New Year's resolutions. Feel like it just starts the year off on a negative foot, right? I try to make some improvements each and every year, but I don't do New Year's resolutions. But there are going to be certain elements of this particular program that we've been doing for 3 years. Coming up in February is going to be 3 years, Brendan, you and I doing this show. Who would have thunk that first month? But I think you kind of hated me. We'd still be here 3 years later. I didn't think we didn't quite get each other yet, right? I'm a big personality. I think you were like, is this guy for real? I don't know if I buy this. I think this guy is a big fat phony. I don't know if I'm buying this whole Captain Positivity. 3 years later.
There was a lot of change going on for me around that time, Justin. And I don't like change. So
much change.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't roll with the change.
Hey, this thing you were
So now it's been consistent for 3 years. So like, if you were not here tomorrow, I'd probably be like, why are we getting rid of Justin?
Hey, remember that thing you were brought in here to do? Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. And now you're going to try to do this that's completely different, and then that's going to be gone. And now you've got this very energetic redhead that's bouncing off the walls, and you're like, I don't know if this guy's for real. I don't know what this guy's deal is. But regardless, how about that? 3 years in. But here's the thing. I feel like some elements of this particular program got a little bit stale. I feel like we need some new juice. We need some new energy. So, again, we're going to do some brainstorming during the holiday weeks. And coming up 2024, got some new ideas. We're going to throw some new ideas out there. Stuff we like is going to stay. Stuff I don't like, chopping block. All right? Not show friends segments, like the segments have an actual personality. It's show business. But for right now, we still have Make or Miss. Make or Miss is going to be sticking around. That's not going anywhere. But there are going to be some changes coming up. Will Thirsty Thursday make it into 2024? I don't know. It was always kind of a weird segment anyways. The fact that it made it 3 years is pretty impressive. So we are going to be doing that, though, coming up in about 40 minutes. NFL football tonight. My beloved Steelers with Mitch Trubisky. Going to try to hang on for dear life.
Is that why you're rocking the shirt today?
I felt like there's so much negativity around this game. I felt like I should bust out the gear, support the boys, and be like, look, still very much in the mix here. All right? I know things haven't gone all that swimmingly, but when you look at the standings right now, Steelers are still 7-5, right? I said it the other day. You got a winning record in the month of December. You're all right. You're doing all right. So you're sitting there at 7-5. You're going up against 2-10 Patriots. The Patriots don't want to win games. Their organization. Now, the players on the field, this is the problem, though, when it comes to the NFL, right? Is that unlike the NBA where you just need to get about 2 guys to be like, hey, can you sit down? We're going to pay you. We're going to get your contract extended and everything else. And get you taken care of financially, but we're going to need you to sit down because we need some ping pong balls. And then you take a bunch of G League guys and go, hey, question for you. Would you rather be playing in the G League, doing your own laundry, or would you rather play in the NBA? Now, here's the catch. We're going to need you to lose. Like, that's a deal that can be made with regard to the NBA and tanking, right? You can go to, like, and look, I know this because the Blazers did it. You can go to Anthony Simons and back then Nurkic and say, hey, here's the deal, guys. I know you're in a contract year. We're going to take care of you. What we need you to do is get some plantar fasciitis and maybe some right knee soreness and shut it down for the season. And then we're going to pay you $21 million a year. How's that sound? I was like, don't work and then get paid $21 million? Where do I sign? Well, no, you can't actually sign. That would be tampering. That's bad. We're just wink, nod. You got to trust us. And then, hey, G League guys, end of the bench guys. Would you like to stay in the G League? At that particular time, it was, what's the Clippers? Where are they at? Ontario?
No.
California? Calabasas? Thousand Oaks? Just naming off.
You're right. Okay.
It was Ontario. Ontario, California, though.
Yes.
Not or Ontario and Canada.
They changed their name from the Agua Caliente Clippers to the Ontario Clippers.
All right.
That's where I was like, I thought they were that.
It's like, hey, G League guys, would you rather stay in Ontario, California, playing for the Ontario Clippers, where you're doing your own laundry and you're staying at nice hotels, but not 5-star, or how about you come play for the Blazers? And you're going to play in the NBA. You're going to have an NBA jersey. We just need you to lose. Right? You can do that in the NBA because I saw the Blazers do it. I've seen plenty of teams do it. Can't do that in the NFL.
Clearly not.
It's a little tougher to do in the NFL. Like, hey, defensive lineman who is basically on a year-to-year contract because while you may have signed a 4-year deal, if you get your knee hurt, you're cut. Because that's how we do it in the NFL. We're going to need you to not play. It's like, yeah, no, I'm playing. Not only am I playing, I'm going to try to sack the quarterback every single time and put that on tape so that when you do eventually cut me, I don't look like a clown out there. Right? There's a lot of talk about tanking in the NFL, and I don't know if that's what the Patriots are doing. Is there any other team that we could say legitimately is tanking? Because Carolina's just bad, but, like, I don't think they're trying to lose on purpose. They're just bad.
No, like Detroit and San Antonio in the NBA are trying to lose.
They are actively trying to lose.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty crazy. We haven't talked about it. I think the Spurs have lost 18 in a row. So not to say that Wembanyama's not going to be great, but everyone who's like, he's going to be the piece to take you to the promised land right away.
Brendan, I watched the Spurs last night a little bit before the Blazers came on. I was watching the Spurs and the T-Wolves last night, and, like, I mean, I don't want to get it. We did tinfoil hats last segment. I don't want to put a tinfoil hat on, but, like, boy, anytime Wemby gets going, he goes right to the bench. It's like, hey, nice rebound. Nobody can defend you. We could probably get 2 points every single time down the floor if we just give you the ball at about 8 feet in the air where nobody else. He gets about 2 or 3, like, all right. Good run, Wemby. Back to the bench. Like, Popovich knows what he's doing. Now, he just goes right to the bench. But all that being said, the Patriots I don't think they want to win an awful lot of football games. Now, you could also say that the Arizona Cardinals, right? They don't want to win football games either. Except for when they played the Steelers last week, when poor Kenny goes out with an ankle injury, and then here comes a very cold, not warmed up, and not very good Mitch Trubisky off the bench, and is like, yeah. Still below that one.
I continue to be impressed with the Like, I understand the Cardinals, I think, have won 3 games, but you look at
3 games.
And they've beaten 2 teams with winning records. Because they beat Dallas, which you're like, wait, what? How did that happen? And I forget who else their win was against. But
Atlanta. They got to win against Atlanta. They got to win against the Steelers. They got to win against the Cowboys.
Yeah, and that's why I said, like, usually, like, we've seen it, Justin. We saw it with Frank Reich this year. There are times now when it is not unprecedented for a coach to get the old hook and crook and be out after 1 year, right? Which was mind-boggling a few years ago. The fact that both Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, who are both Indianapolis and Arizona, both came off that Eagles staff last year. Justin, how many Andy Reid guys have gotten hired and failed? Like, Matt Nagy was the man behind Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Chicago fails.
Well, see, that's the problem, right? Is Nathaniel Hackett turns out different coach when Aaron Rodgers ain't there.
Uh-huh.
Weird how that works out. Because I even heard Aaron Rodgers there's like, oh yeah, Nathaniel Hackett's taking a lot of blame. It's like, I won 4 MVPs in that offense. Like, yeah, you did. Zach Wilson ain't.
Just because you've got a good offense doesn't mean you're a good head coach.
Even Russell Wilson ain't. Well, and just because you got a great offense doesn't mean it's like, that's Aaron Rodgers, right? That's Patrick Mahomes. Those are 2 of the greatest to ever do it. So, like, case in point, how many we've been talking about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and all that. The Bill Belichick coaching tree is brutally bad. Everybody that left the Patriots to go get their own coaching job has failed and failed miserably. Nobody from the Bill Belichick coaching tree has any success. Am I missing one? I don't think I am.
Let me look real quick.
They are all mediocre at best, and most of them get fired. I would think Vrabel is the only one. Vrabel's the only one.
Will you allow college?
Well, yeah, Nick Saban's there, but what happened when Nick Saban went to the Dolphins?
One more that I know it's going to stump you up. I didn't know he served under
Bill O'Brien when he was at Penn State.
Kirk Ferentz.
Kirk Ferentz, man, he just keeps winning games.
Since '99 was at Iowa, obviously, but was the offensive line coach when Bill was in Cleveland. So
but what I'm saying is NFL
Jed Fish under that tree too.
So that's what should happen, right? If you go hire Bill Belichick guys to coach in college, because I
think you should.
Because I think Bill O'Brien was pretty good at Penn State.
Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota.
They're not. I mean,
kind of. You mentioned Variable Cliff Kingsbury before he got let go.
He got fired.
Brian Dable probably going down that way.
Going to get fired here pretty soon. He keeps yelling at the poor backup quarterbacks in New York. They're like, dude, I came here to be a backup to Danny Dimes, who you paid way too much money for, and now you keep screaming at me.
Josh McDaniels.
Been fired twice.
Charlie Weiss.
Romeo Crennel. Matt Patricia, right? You just keep naming them. They keep getting fired.
And I didn't realize Pat Hill at Fresno State, too. Hire a Belichick coach and let him run your college program. Yeah. They will succeed.
But point is,
you're
right.
But
you want to know why, though? It's because all those guys, when they leave Bill Belichick, you know who you don't have? Tom Brady. Like, Tom Brady. Sorry about it. Sorry, Romeo Crennel. You're going to the Cleveland Browns. Pick the wheel of starting quarterbacks that has gone on to have success in that organization. So it's like, yeah, you see all these coaches, and it's like, oh, look at all the success. Like, I will say, Shane Steichen's doing pretty good. They might make the playoffs.
With Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew, baby.
Impressive.
Minshew mania. But you can't ever just oh yeah, look at the success they had there, and it's like, yeah, because they had Tom Brady there, they had Aaron Rodgers there, and they had Patrick Mahomes. None of those guys going to these other teams? Nope, got it. It's going to be tough.
It's fascinating to me how what it either clicks for these coordinators that become head coaches or it doesn't, Justin. And honestly, it's one of those things that goes across all levels of football.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, at all levels, you've got guys who are I'm trying to think of for instance, we talked about Gene Chizik earlier in the week, right? National championship winning head coach.
Yeah, different coach without Cam Newton.
Right. Now, is there a reason why he's been heavily employed as a defensive coordinator for the last decade? No, because he's still a defensive genius. And I think it's the same way with college and NFL, and it's like sometimes it's the buy-in with NFL, and you tell me all the time it's so much different because everybody in that locker room is making more than you, so you have to tread lightly on how to motivate guys, and NFL's tough.
Here's what I think. College, it's about leadership, right? And recruiting, but it's about leadership. You watch Dan Lanning walk into a room, you're like, that guy's very confident. He's in charge. Clearly, Nick Saban walks into a room. It's like that guy's in charge. The NFL, it is management. You are not there to lead. You are there to manage. And the personnel you get, you treat certain players a certain way. Mike Tomlin's the best at it. Mike Tomlin has had, since Ben Roethlisberger reared back against the Seahawks about 3 years ago and popped his elbow, they have had no consistency at quarterback. Yet they keep having winning records. Why? Because Mike Tomlin's the best at management. It's like they got through Antonio Brown going crazy. Like he lost his marbles. Steelers are fine. Why? Management. All right. All that being said, I think the Steelers win tonight. Get to 8-5. Let's get to 8-5, baby. Let's get Kenny back from surgery. Maybe make a run at this thing. Who knows? But yeah, I wore the T-shirt to support the boys. All right, quickly, let's get to the big three. because they dropped that game to the Dallas Cowboys. They got waxed on Thanksgiving night. And guess what you get again? Oh, the 49ers are back. All the way back. So we'll talk to Brady Henderson is kind of where the Seahawks are. So since the 49ers lost to the Bengals, right, that 31-17 loss to the Bengals, which was a 3-game skid, they have beaten the Jaguars, who with Trevor Lawrence, by the way, 34-3. Crushed them. Absolutely crushed Jacksonville Jaguars. 24-14 win over the Buccaneers. 31-3 win over the Seahawks in Seattle. And then they went into Philadelphia and won 42-19. 49ers are back. They are a wagon. We still question Brock Purdy, by the way. We still question this guy. Like, how many NFL games you got to win as a starting quarterback? We still questioning this guy?
I know one guy who still probably is. Our good friend Chad Doing.
Now, I know that nobody's going to know, like, all the people who have made up their minds on Brock Purdy, right? I love the idea of, like, oh, well, you put anybody in that system. It's like, oh, yeah, how'd Trey Lance do? How'd he do?
Not well.
How'd Jimmy Garoppolo do?
Well,
he did okay.
He did take him to Super Bowl.
Was it the same system? Like, I know Shanahan.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Pre-COVID, though? Pre-COVID.
It was a month before.
Yes.
Because remember, everyone afterwards
pre-COVID
was like,
doesn't count.
Everyone's like, should the Chiefs have really had their celebration party? And then it was, if it was in San Francisco and the Niners had won, it definitely wouldn't have happened.
That's right, I forgot about that.
It was a different time in our lives.
I was trying to black out all that.
They're like, Mahomes is throwing beers to people? Does he or she have COVID? Yeah, no, it's a different time, man. But yes, he did take them there, and if he doesn't overthrow...
if they...
Emmanuel Sanders, they might win that game. So, you know.
Also, they went like crazy conservative.
Oh, Kyle Shanahan knows how to lose
what he
Super
does
Bowls.
in Super Bowls. Yeah, but regardless, like, but after that, right? Garoppolo, like, injuries, sure, but like, what's Jimmy G done since then? What, keeps getting hurt? It's like, they just plug and play with that. It's like, yeah, how did Trey Lance do? He plays for the Cowboys now, and not the starter. So. I don't know. Did you see what Micah Parsons had to say? So,
Micah Parsons, as I like to say.
Micah Parsons, which he is, like, I would love that guy on my team. Let me just say.
Justin and I had the question. Do you start a team with Micah Parsons or who'd we throw out there? Tyreek Hill.
And I love TJ Watt. All right, I love TJ Watt.
Yeah.
TJ Watt. But, like, dude, Micah Parsons might be the best defensive player in the NFL. But Micah Parsons on his podcast, he came out and said both the 49ers and the Dolphins, he said that he could be the quarterback of those teams because their weapons are so good. I'm like,
would you bet against him?
I think you're a little cuckoo. I don't think that's quite the case. I think Tua and Brock Purdy are incredibly good. And the idea that you can just, like, I just plug them in. Okay, really? So how come teams just don't do that? Right? How come nobody follows that model, Brendan? Why is everybody paying these quarterbacks $50 million when apparently you can just take all that $50 million, spread it out amongst weapons on the offense, and just, I don't know, find some seventh rounder to dink and dunk your way to a Super Bowl? Because it doesn't work that way. Brock Purdy's good. If Brock Purdy would have been drafted in the third round instead of Mr. Irrelevant, he'd be the MVP leading candidate right now. Firmly believe that. But because we're all obsessed with the draft and where you come in, we've had this discussion, Brendan, both on and off the air about the worst part of corporate America. If anybody's worked in corporate America, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The worst part of corporate America is when you walk into a building, whatever level you walked into, if you are Ryan the Temp, guess what? You could all the way elevate yourself up to corporate vice chairman. You're still the temp. You are. I've seen it in this industry so many times. I was very fortunate to get my first break in radio, and I got it through a contest. I won a contest. They gave they had open auditions at a bar in Eugene, and they said, here you go. 4 weeks later, I had a radio show, and it was bad. But I've been doing this nearly 20 years now, and yet I was in one place for 7, 8 years, hosting multiple shows, and it was like, yeah, no, that's the contest guy. That's the guy. You should be happy, because that's what happens when you walk in. Brendan, you know what it's like. You walked in as an intern in a different place. And we're
Kind of here too.
and like just some people just like, oh, no, you're the intern. It's like, no, I'm not an intern anymore. I do this now. It's the same thing with Brock Purdy, don't you think? If Brock Purdy was drafted in the 3rd round, doing everything he's doing this year, and yeah, he had a bit of a 3-game skid, but if Brock Purdy was drafted in the 3rd round with everything that the 49ers are doing this year, he'd be the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. But instead, he's Mr. Irrelevant, and he needed Jimmy Garoppolo to he broke his foot, right? And then he needed Trey Lance. Well, Trey Lance got hurt, and then Jimmy G got hurt, and then he came in and, I don't know, won every game last year till his elbow went out. And then this year, ho-hum, just sitting at 9-3 with a surgically repaired elbow. They remember nobody thought, like, he might not make it back. He's just 9-3. Crushing teams. Beat the Eagles 42-19. And I don't even like the 49ers. And here I am, sitting here trying to defend Brock Purdy. All right. All that being said, Seahawks got the 49ers this Sunday, and Brady Henderson's going to join us in the 3rd hour. Very excited to talk to him. Right now, though, let's get to Make or Miss. Here
Seahawks hierarchy, I'd be willing to bet there's a lot of little kids with Jamal Adams jerseys in the Seattle area. And this is one of those moments where if you're a parent and you have a child that, likes Jamal Adams or likes the Seahawks, or maybe he's their favorite player, this is just one of those moments where you're like, man, you want your athletes to be good role models, and this is not it.
Well, and here's the other thing.
Not like everyone has to be. We want that in American culture. It's unrealistic to expect it.
Just common decency, though.
But that too, yeah.
I don't have a problem. You want to pick a fight with a reporter? I have no problem with that, right? I do think it is fair game that if you throw something out on Twitter to critique or criticize someone, and they want to criticize you, fair game, right? We live in the public eye. We are reporters. We are media. If Tamani Kamara wants to be like, hey, morning show boy, why don't you try grabbing a rebound and getting tripped, and instead of calling it, that's fine. That's fair. You bring my wife into it, now we got a problem. Like I said, I've been in this business for a long, long time, and there's a lot of stuff that you got to let roll off your back, right? Because it's just going to happen, whether it's listeners who don't think I'm very good, or players that I have ticked off, or I can handle it. I'm a big boy. I've been around long enough. Can't hurt. It's tough to hurt me. You talk about my wife?
Even today.
I am now. It's go time.
Right. So
now the Winston, Oregon.
Yeah,
you think you're better than me is going to come out,
so
and I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is I can't. I would have to resort to, if someone said some terrible things about a family member, I'd defend them like the Alamo, as I'm a single guy. But Justin, I don't know how this context would ever come up, but say you were Twitter arguing with somebody and someone did that to you.
Yeah. And if I knew who they were, we're going to have a problem.
We're going to meet outside. I love it.
And I'd probably get smoke showed.
Hey,
but you know what?
Go down defending the honor, man.
You're not going to talk like, and I feel bad for the guys in New York, right? It's not like he can really do it. And you can't, look, you roll, what is the whole thing, right? Like you fight the pigs, everybody gets dirty or something like that. Or like you roll around with the pigs, everybody gets dirty. And I'm pretty even keel when it comes to like, hey, I've been told I suck about thousands of times, right? I got it. Okay. Not your cup of tea or your cup of fancy coffee. That's tomorrow. That's sticking around into 2024. But
make or miss better remain on the off the chopping block.
I said it earlier. You and I, it's a collaborative effort. I'm just doing a little brain. But like, you talk about my wife, and I know you. You're not like
a Twitter.
You're not like Hawk fan 178438. Like you're not with an egg. Right?
A Twitter egg, yeah.
Or do they still have eggs? I don't know, but
they might have got rid of them.
But if I know you. There's gonna be confrontation.
See, and that's the thing, though, Justin. Not that we condone violence on this show at all. I'll just be honest. Other than somebody who's like a bodyguard that's like 300 and some pounds and just got the weight class on you.
Yeah.
I'd take you in most fights.
Not over an NFL guy, though. Not over Jamal Adams. That guy's jacked.
Well, of course, a world class. But I'm talking about if Joe Block's, called out Mrs. Myers.
Yeah, let's go.
I'd take you against Joe Block,
Let's go.
So, let's not do that. But nevertheless.
I haven't been in a fight since the Rumors parking lot in Roseburg, Oregon. Anybody who knows Roseburg, Oregon knows that there are fights that happened in the Rumors parking lot. That was the last time I was in a fight, there's a bar in Roseburg, Rumors. Everybody fought at some point at Rumors. That was the last time, but the rage that Brendan, I didn't even know this guy. And Jamal Adams wasn't in Seattle, obviously, clearly, when I was there. There were some characters there that, they said some things about me. But I saw that, and I was like, I instantly thought of, what I would do, and I got, so mad. What a horrible person. There's a horrible thing to do. All right, we got one more. Let's talk about... Find something new other than talking about fighting NFL players.
Yeah. No, that's it'd be it would be interesting, but those NFL guys are world-class athletes for a reason. Same with NBA, MLB. I wouldn't mess with any world-class athlete for a reason.
I'd take on an MLS guy, though.
Okay, yes, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You take on an MLS guy in Blazers battle ball format, right?
Dude. I mean, we all saw.
We did.
We all saw the tape. Shout out to Chris Burkhardt who brought the tape back last week. Put it out on Twitter.
I love it. All right, let's get to this one. If Jonathan Smith backed over the fan base when he left, he lit it on fire with his goodwill donations.
Dude, okay, so we saw the picture yesterday where it looked to be just a quarter zip.
Oh, no.
Turns out the entire wardrobe of now, I don't have an emotional dog in this fight, right? To me, I looked at it and be like, right thing to do. Give it to the fan. But I get the sense from young Brendan here and from most of the fan base is like, yeah, you can take your donation and shove it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Go find somebody else to give that to.
I did see a reply on Twitter that I thought was very interesting.
It's like 30 jackets, though.
Well, and somebody had jumped on Twitter. I have no way of confirming that they said Chip Kelly did the same thing at the Gateway Goodwill before he took off to Philadelphia. So maybe it's not uncommon. It was.
I think it's usually what happens.
It was a cute story when it was just the one, and it's like, oh. But then when you see the TikTok that Justin sent me yesterday, so I know what time Justin's on TikTok now.
Well, that's all the time. That's all the time.
It was funny. When he sent it, I was like, I thought this was gym time.
It was right after. So I got done working out, and I was like, let me check my phone, and I saw that, and I'm like, that's hilarious.
Yep. So, and then you just see the TikTok where it's like, shirt, 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 shirt,
All right, you can always find interesting articles about when you head to the bar, which I've frequented a time or two. When you head to the bar, you should order this, you should never order this. You should order this and never order this. But you know what? You know who really knows what to order, what not to order, what to stay away from? The people that work in the industry, the bartenders, the service industry people. By the way, tip of the cap to all of you. Servers, bartenders, barbacks, everybody. I could not do your job. You are doing the work that keeps me very, very happy when I walk into local establishments. So a tip of the cap to all of the workers, but also a tip of the cap to them for helping us out in learning what not to order. We've got a list. And we are going to play a little Have You Ever between Brendan and myself as to whether or not we've ever ordered these. Let's open up Thirsty Thursday.
Are you thirsty? Justin and Brandon with a great beverage debate on RCM. It's Thirsty Thursday.
All right, so first thing they say, bartenders say, never order draft beer. Now, this one I understand. Now, not in a beer town like Portland, because here, obviously, a lot of places beer forward, but I have heard from bartenders that unless it is a popular beer that is being constantly moved through the system, when you go into a place and they're like, we have 150 taps, and it's like, all right, tap number 78. When was the last time somebody ordered that? How dirty are the lines, right? Do you clean all 150 of the lines? Now, again, in a beer town like Portland, most of the place, like, where you would notice the skunky beer, but yeah. Unless it is, if you go to a place where, like, we have 78 taps from 18 different countries, it's like, yeah, what's the most popular one? Because I know that one's clean, right? Next on the list, things not to order at the bar. The Long Island iced tea. Guilty. Brendan, you ever had a Long Island iced tea?
Crush so many.
They are disgusting. I don't know how it ever became a thing. I have ordered them, but this bartender says, yeah, just the mixing of it, it's like it's off balance. You never know exactly what you're going to get, and it's maybe potential for a bad night. And bartenders, I would imagine, with the 5 different boozes that go into it, just probably hate making them.
Yeah, notice how the article, Justin, says the people drinking them are trying to get as intoxicated as possible quickly. That's the only reason I've ever drank one, too. So,
all right, next up on the list, these are things that bartenders say they never order at the bar. Espresso martini. Oh, yes, please. I shall take one. Now, the parameters of this is very interesting because I agree with it. Not many bars have an actual espresso maker. You know what I mean? Even a little pod machine. So usually, if you order an espresso martini at a place who doesn't maybe specialize in espresso martinis, you're gonna get like 5-hour-old coffee in there. Is what you're gonna get. You're gonna get some 5-hour-old. They started brewing the pot of coffee for like the brunch crowd, and it just kind of stayed there. You had an espresso martini?
Can't say it's in something I'd really want to try.
I think you would like it. I think you would.
It's not sweet.
Oh, if it's made right, it's a lot like a very good fancy coffee, only with a little booze in it.
And again, you know my thoughts on coffee.
I think you would like it. I'm knowing you, honest to goodness. I'm not fibbing here. I'm not trying to get you, into some trouble. I think you'd like it. I had one just the other day. It's delicious.
They do have one at where I go for trivia, but
maybe
I've had
next.
too much of my go-to now, man.
I don't know if you want to drink like an espresso like that.
Probably not at 7 o'clock at night.
A little tough to, but
yeah,
you balance it out with the vodka, and you're fine.
Maybe
You're fine.
maybe over the weekend.
Other things to stay away from. This one, listen. Brendan knows me. Brendan, what is my favorite drink?
Margaritas.
I love margaritas. Oh boy, but only certain places know how to make them. And I shouldn't say that. Only certain places know to take the care with the ingredients. If you're using fresh lime juice and good tequila, you can't screw up a margarita. But if you are cutting corners or like This one says this person works at the golf course. I would never order a margarita at a golf course. Can't, they're not making them right. They're not squeezing limes in the back of the golf course. But
I'll tell you this.
when I go to Carlita's, whew, let's get a bottle of margaritas, please.
I think I'm going to make an enemy out of my next bartender and have him make me this Ramos Gin Fizz, Justin.
Don't order the gin fizz.
Because that looks delicious.
Unless it is a specialty at that bar, do not order a gin fizz. You need an egg white. You need an egg white in there.
Hey, man, I'll give a good tip. That looks pretty darn good. Looks like a Frosty almost.
There is a place in Southeast Portland called Holy Ghost. I believe is what it's called, Holy Ghost.
Okay.
They do a gin fizz there. It is beautiful. It's beautiful gin fizz. Would never order it anywhere else, but specialty place, I would order a gin fizz. But yeah, there you go. Those are the places to never order at the bar. Also, it says unless it's an Irish pub, don't get a Guinness. Don't get a Guinness unless it's an Irish pub, and I agree with you. All right, we've got hour number 3 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Justin Myers with you. Blazers fall to the Golden State Warriors 110-106 at the Chase Center in San Francisco. Led most of the game, but a final minute collapse led to the loss. Anthony Simons did make his return for the first time in about 6 weeks. He led the Blazers with 28 points. Shaedon Sharpe had another big night. That's 3 in a row for Shaedon. 26 points, but 31 from Steph Curry carried Golden State. 7-player mega deal in Major League Baseball will send Juan Soto from San Diego to the Yankees. So this just in, the Yankees once again get all the good players. Thursday Night Football tonight. Pittsburgh Steelers host the New England Patriots. New England has yet to name a starting quarterback. Over-under set at 30.5. Steelers favored by 6. And coming up in about 20 minutes, friend of the program, Brady Henderson, who covers the Seahawks for ESPN.com, joins us. But hour number 3 starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. The most transparent show in Portland is Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, here on 620 Rip City Radio.
As I just mentioned in the update, Brady Henderson is going to join us in 20 minutes. We are going to have an RCM mailbag coming up in about 40 minutes. I'm conflicted, gang. I am. I'm conflicted. I knew that this Blazer season was going to be, as we have talked about it, riddled with growing pains, right? Rookie mistakes, inconsistencies, ups and downs. And it's going to be a theme throughout the basketball season, right? Growing pains are painful. By the way, Growing Pains, underrated TV show. Underrated TV show. The Seaver family. You get Mike, Carol, Ben. Maggie was the mom. Dr. Seaver. He was a psychiatrist in his own house. That was a whole thing in the 80s. A lot of dads, obviously, because they just it makes the set easier for TV. But like when I was growing up, I just figured everybody worked from home. Whether you were a psychiatrist or a doctor, or everybody just had their own office where they worked from home. But yeah, Growing Pains, the Seaver family. It's a great show. Carol's boyfriend got in a drunk driving accident. We learned a valuable lesson that day. But anyways, growing pains are going to be painful. And I think we saw that last night because for everything on paper, Blazers had no business being in that game last night. Going into that game, could you imagine? It's like, wait, so Golden State's coming in relatively full strength. 4 Hall of Famers. Blazers are going in without Jeremy Grant, who up until this point has been their most consistent scorer. Obviously, getting Anthony Simons back helps that, but Jeremy Grant's been the most consistent scorer. And without DeAndre Ayton, who has been a pretty solid presence down low. And 13 minutes in, Malcolm Brogdon, who I would say arguably has been the Blazers' most consistent player on both ends of the floor. All those guys. 2 of them didn't start, and 1 was out in 13 minutes. I was like, all right, the Blazers have no business being in, but hey, in case you forgot, and clearly the one game and then the thumb injury, and then, but in case you forgot, Anthony Simons can still get buckets. And I don't know if you've been watching what this Shaedon Sharpe guy has been able to do the last couple of games, especially this last week and a half. He has been a walking bucket as well. And the defensive effort, getting stops, getting rebounds, good effort on both, like, out of nowhere, watching this, like, hey, they're hanging around. Lead at halftime, lead in the third quarter. Here comes the run. All right, hunker down, deal with the run, go on a little mini run. Blazers in prime position. Now we're in a dogfight, right? Because that's what Golden State, they've been doing this for like, what, 10 years now? Which is toy around for about 3.5 quarters, go on like a 12-3 run in like with 4 minutes to go, put you like that's been the Blazers took that run, got the stop they needed, got the rebound they needed. Kamara falling backwards. We got 2 timeouts, kid. Throws the ball into the basket. It gets stolen. Pass. Of course, the ball's going to end up in Steph Curry's hands. And a game where, I mean, what's Steph shoot from 3? He had 5 of 13 from 3. You'll take that. He's 5 of 13 from 3. But it was that one. Went from a 1-point deficit with the ball to then a 4-point deficit. Now you're playing the free throw game, and you're running out of time. You still had a foul to give, by the way. So I'm conflicted because I am a firm believer, right? Moral victories are for minor league coaches, right? Winners get sprinkles, and this is the NBA, kid. Now I want to sit here and roast Toumani Camara because hopefully he's going to be able to do some good things for this team. He is part of this youth movement, and hopefully they learn these lessons, these tough lessons night in and night out. But, man, I'm conflicted because you had it. You know what I mean? You had it. Now, who knows? Who knows? Because they were down 1. Who knows that if Kamara calls that timeout and then the Blazers advance the ball up, well, that was the wrong button. That didn't need to be. That one's on me. That was my bad. I don't know if that picked it up through the microphone. But random pop-up video happened, and that one was on me. In case you're wondering, it was about Toyota phone. But who knows if the Blazers ultimately end up getting that bucket. But the way Anthony Simons was playing and the way that Shaedon Sharpe was playing, I'd have taken my chances. But rookie tried to make a play, tried to do a little too much. Can't do that against a good team. Welcome to the NBA, kid. Brendan, where are you at on that? I'm conflicted because I don't want to be like, hey, moral victory. You know, hey, the fact that they were in a 1-possession game without 2 starters and the 3rd starter goes out, like, I don't want to be that guy. But also, I don't want to be silly. I don't want to be unrealistic. I don't want to sit here and think that this team, maybe they can make the play-in. I don't know if they're going to.
Yeah, I think that's...
I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I think that's still a little out over the skis to start talking that way. But at the same token, with their weird combination of veterans with rookies, anything's possible, right? Like we talked about before. Did anybody think the Blazers were going to make the playoffs, let alone make the 5 seed? The year after LaMarcus Aldridge left, and it was Dame CJ, the Young Bucks, and the rest of the team, and they traded away Mason Plumlee, and here's this Nurk guy. So anything can happen. You can always surprise. And actually, I got that mixed up. Nurk was the next season.
That was 2017.
The next season.
Yeah.
It was still Mason your face, Mason Plumlee. Not taking down the Clippers that playoff series. God, that was fun. Feels like
was that when everybody in the Clippers got hurt, right?
Yes. That feels like forever ago, and it kind of was.
Didn't Blake Griffin break his hand punching a guy?
Trying to think.
Isn't that what happened?
So Chris Paul broke his hand. Blake Griffin had another quad injury or something like that. But
there was also something where Blake Griffin punched a guy and got himself hurt.
I think that was around the same time. But regardless, point being is that anything can happen. You never know how a season's going to shake out. But Justin, I go back and I say, for a guy like Toumani Camara, who is a rookie, I know he played 4 years of ball at, help me out here, Justin, Dayton and...
Is it Dayton Flyer?
Yes, yeah. And where else? It was somewhere else.
I just got him at Dayton.
Yeah, Dayton and I think that's... Oh, Dayton and Georgia. That's right. I knew he played ball somewhere else too. But Dayton and Georgia. And, 4 years of experience is huge, and we're seeing why I think he maybe takes the floor more than like Chris Murray, who Justin and I have talked about as the first-round pick of this team. And even Chris Murray was a multiple-year college guy. But this will be one of those times, Justin, where I've been willing to bet it will pay dividends down the line, as tough as it is. He will probably not make a mistake like that again.
And, look, I'm not going to kill the guy for, but it's one of those things. My thing with the NBA that I love is what happened. It's random Wednesday night, right? Random Wednesday night in the middle of December, and going in on paper, Blazers had no business being in this ballgame, right? I was like, hey, cool, Ant's going to come back. Let's see what happens. But for the most part, like, Brogdon goes down early. No Grant, no Aiden. They're not going to be in this ball game. And it's like, hey, out of nowhere, they're in this ball game. Random Wednesday night. I'm having fun now. And it's like, oh. That's why I'm conflicted. Because I still like winning, right? I still want to see this team get over the hump. And, like, you look at the way that the Blazers have been playing these last couple of weeks, right? You got to win against the Jazz. You got to win against the Pacers. You got to win against the Cavs. The 3 losses are just right there. You know what I mean? Had the Bucks on the road. First matchup against Dame. Yeah, I let that one fall apart there at the end. But they had it. They had the lead. They were right there.
It gives you hope, Justin. And that's
like the Jazz, there's overtime. Got them. A good win on the road against the Jazz.
Right.
Win on the road against the Warriors.
And let me ask you this,
You're right. Let's be
of the last 2 years,
silver
Justin,
lining.
Of the last 2 years, what can you tell me from that, other than Shaden Sharp's development, has been a positive the last 2 years? Because you look back and I go, like, I can squint, Justin, and I can see. You mentioned it earlier. Chauncey Billups, I think we're figuring out he can coach. I think we're figuring out he's got personnel to play better defense now. The Blazers aren't
play way better defense.
They're not getting cooked by 130 anymore. Maybe that was a culture thing. Justin and I joke about it forever. It was not as simple as bringing in defensive personnel because you brought in Norman Powell and he said, wait, you guys want me to be the one guy that defends? Nah, I'm good. So
yeah, exactly.
You change the culture. You reset. There's nobody left. And as Justin pointed out, maybe that culture wasn't going to change until the guy at the top played defense too.
It was 2 guys at the top, right? Because you mentioned the culture is important. And so I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, culture is very important with organizations. And the culture for a long time was, look, Terry Stotts was there. Dame was there. And it was like, we're going to score a bajillion points. Okay? And like you said, you can't then just bring in Chauncey Billups, who played good defense when he played. It's like, oh, we're going to, like, no. For about 5 years, it was like, we're going to outscore teams, right? We got Dame, who's potentially can go off for 50 at any particular time. CJ's there. Ant coming off the bench, all that. And now it's like, all right. Playing some pretty good defense. Like, you see, I know Brogdon played only in the first half, but you see Brogdon, like, and even though Scoot didn't have a very good night shooting the ball, grabbing boards, chasing after loose balls, like youthful energy. Now, maybe in about 3 years, those loose balls he doesn't quite run after anymore because he's like, 82 games is going to be a long time. But there is some things that I like. It's so close. So it's just right there. Going back to your original question, because other than the Shaden Sharp development, I will say, and after watching him last night, the most positive thing of the last 2 years is Anthony Simons.
Okay, yeah, that's fair too.
Anthony Simons, but we've seen him play 2 games this year. He looked good walking bucket last night.
I'm remiss for not mentioning him as well. It slipped off my mind the fact that he'd been gone for a month.
Yeah, but he's been shut down 2 years. You know what I mean? And
there wasn't a whole lot to be positive about if you're a Blazer fan these last couple of years. I mean, we were looking forward to the draft the last 2 years. It was, who are they going to pick, right? Oh, they got the 7th pick. And then it's, you got close to Wemby. And it's like, at least now you can kind of see it, Justin. You couldn't necessarily see it the last 2 years.
Now we're going to find out about this defense because they play the Mavs tomorrow. Did you see Luka last night? Triple-double in the first half. Never happened in NBA history before.
Yeah, he's trying to show off to his new owners.
Dude had a triple-double in the first. Now, I realize that the triple-double is maybe the most overrated stat of all
Mess
time.
around.
But not only 23 points in the first half. Take that, Jokic. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk some Seahawks. They got a big one. They got a big one against the 49ers this weekend because they got smoke showed on Thanksgiving, let one slip away in Dallas, and they got to get back on track if they want to get that final wildcard spot there in the NFC. Joining us next, Brady Henderson from ESPN.com, 620 Rip City Radio. Francisco 49ers that I don't know if you've noticed, but they seem to have found their stride again, right? Brock Purdy got his groove back because the 49ers look to be a wagon. The Seahawks still hanging around, trying to find their spot there in the NFC. Joining us now to talk about not only the matchup with the Seahawks and the 49ers, but all things around the Seattle Seahawks. Friend of the program and a handsome SOB, if I do say so myself, from ESPN.com. Brady Henderson back on the big show. Morning, Brady. How we doing?
Oh, good morning. I know there's always some sort of compliment you're going to throw in there that's just going to make me feel really awkward and all that stuff. So thank you, my friend.
First off, you should not
ever
feel awkward. You are a handsome SOB. You are a sharp-dressed man. You're a boat captain, for crying out loud. Like, the world is your oyster, Brady. Like, what? Like, okay, so the Seahawks kind of stink as of late, but that's not your issue. You're just here to report. But in terms of everything else, crushing life, my friend.
So yeah, I don't know if it's raining. Speaking of boats, I don't know if it's raining as bad in Portland as it is in Seattle, but it's a deluge and it won't stop. And so if you hear water sloshing around in the background, that's me, bailing water out of my boat because I've sprung a leak and I'm trying to stay afloat.
The atmospheric river, I think, has hit the I-5 corridor. No, yeah, okay. Because it is. It's not exactly raining at the moment, but. And I don't think it stopped for like the last 3 days. I think, yeah, we're all dealing with the atmospheric river. All right, Brady, let's dive into this Seahawks team because I love the NFL for a lot of different reasons, but one of the things that I do love about this league is how 1 inch can create a narrative. Now, what do I mean by that? Because you go back to that game between the Seahawks and the Cowboys last Thursday. And if Tyler Lockett catches that ball in the fourth quarter, when Geno Smith threw an absolute dime and he splits the D and scores, like that is an inch away from, all right, Seahawks have got it figured out. Now you're battling, but instead, ball goes off his hands. Cowboys go down and score. Seahawks let one slip away, and now the narrative between an inch of Tyler Lockett's grip is what's wrong with the Seahawks? Do they need to blow it up? That's why I love the NFL, but it's just it's kind of crazy that's kind of where the Seahawks team has come down to on a razor thin margin that came down to just, I believe, that one play.
Yeah, I mean, it's either an inch or, a split second, like if Lockett gets his head around just a split second sooner, because if you notice, by the time Geno Smith throws that ball, there's a great shot, I think, from the end zone angle where, when Geno Smith is throwing that ball, Tyler Lockett's head is not even turned around yet, and so the big emphasis going into that game was throwing the ball in rhythm, getting it out before the pass rush can get there, and the timing may have been almost too good on that play because Lockett didn't get his head around in time. But yeah, or you could point to the 3 fourth down plays in the fourth quarter where 2 of them, one was 4th and 2 and one was 4th and 1. You don't necessarily expect to convert 4th and 4, but if you get a 4th and 2 or a 4th and 1, then you got a chance to score and take the lead in that game. And so, yeah, look, I mean, I guess give them credit because they came to play in that game and they gave Dallas a much more of a game than I thought they would. I mean, I thought that had, I thought they wouldn't get blown out, but I didn't think that they would have a chance to win it in the fourth quarter like they did against pretty good defense, really good offense. Team that's just been obliterating opponents inside AT&T Stadium. So, but yeah, that's the upshot of it is that they're 6-6 and they're staring down the gun barrel of a 5-game losing streak, considering the 2 that they've got coming up. And I don't think their playoff hopes are dead just because they got 3 winnable games after that. But boy, they have put themselves in a pretty difficult spot.
Well, and Brady Henderson from ESPN.com joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I'm kind of curious because kind of big picture, Brady. The Russell Wilson thing happens. Seahawks fans rally behind Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. They get that big win on Monday Night Football a year and a half ago and make the playoffs. And it feels like, all right, it stinks that we got dumped by Russell Wilson, but it feels like we got our guy in Geno, and he got, I think, a pretty favorable deal. And he's had some ups and downs this year. Like certainly when you look at the way he has played in that game against Dallas, right? There is hope that he can be the guy. But in terms of like I guess the fan base and just kind of the overall feel in Seattle, where is kind of that patience level in terms of, is Geno Smith still the guy? College football's over. Are maybe Seahawk fans kind of eyeballing like Michael Penix or Bo Nix, and like with regard to the quarterback? Where is, like, I think the relationship between the Seahawk fan base and Geno Smith still strong?
Well, you're not hearing very many Geno chants, during the games, and there hasn't been a whole lot to chant about. I mean, at home at least, and it's just been inconsistent enough. I mean, you look at him, and it's not like the skill set has diminished. It's not like his arm strength is any less than what it was. I mean, his accuracy, even though the drop off in completion percentage is pretty significant, his increase in off target percentage is not as big as the decrease in completion percentage, if that makes sense. So, in other words, the reason why he's not completing as many passes, I think it's got more to do with what's going on around him than it is with Geno not being as pinpoint as he was last year. Now, the accuracy has waned a little bit, but I think it's, the point being is that there's a lot going on around him that has impacted his play. Now, looking forward, the contract is what it is. It was structured in such a way that gives the Seahawks an out after this season if Geno Smith were to regress. Now, I do think that whole scenario of Seattle possibly, moving on from Geno after this season, remember that contract was done in March before the draft. So I think that the idea that they could move on from Geno, that would have been more likely had they, spent the 5th pick or maybe even their second first-round pick last year on a quarterback. So it's not like they have some obvious replacement in the pipeline. I mean, Drew Lock, I know there's a lot of people in the organization who thought he was going to be the starter when they made that trade. In fact, that's the reason why John Schneider wanted to trade Russell Wilson to Denver, all else being equal, was because he wanted Drew Lock was the quarterback he wanted in return. Now, nothing that Drew Lock has done in 2 years would give anybody, any sort of great confidence that he is going to be the heir, that he would be a replacement, like a better alternative to Geno Smith. But, the other interesting part about this, and I tell you, we could go on and on talking about this because there's so many interesting angles to this quarterback story. The timing is interesting, Justin, because the way Geno's contract is structured is the same way that the Seahawks structure a lot of contracts, in that the guarantees in their contract will vest 5 days after the Super Bowl. What that means is when you hear a guy has so much money in his contract that's in overall guarantees, and then X amount is fully guaranteed. So the difference there is that some guys have money in their salaries that is guaranteed for injury only at the time of signing, and then at a certain date it, quote-unquote, vests into a full guarantee. So with Geno's contract, I don't have the exact numbers ahead of me, but his salary for next season right now is guaranteed for injury. 5 days after this coming Super Bowl, it becomes fully guaranteed, meaning for skill and cap. So you typically don't see a team keep a guy on its roster past the time where his contract becomes fully guaranteed and then move on from him. So in other words, if they're going to move on from him, they're probably going to do it before the contract becomes fully guaranteed, because then if you cut him, you still have to pay him, and there's no point in cutting him after you already owe him that money. So all that is a long-winded way of saying that, a couple of days, 5 days after the Super Bowl, whatever it is, that is sort of a deadline for the Seahawks to make a decision on Geno. At that point, okay, you know what draft pick you're going to have, but you don't know. You haven't seen these quarterbacks throw at the combine. You haven't brought them. You haven't gone to their pro days. You haven't brought any of them in for pre-draft visits. And so I just wonder how good of a grasp you're going to have by that point on how good of a quarterback you could get in the first round to replace him. And I think that's why the timing for Seattle is kind of tricky in that regard.
Brady Henderson, look at the big old brain on Brady. Look at that. Like, that was so much information right there. I caught about 55% of it, though, which the important part, right, which was you got to figure this thing out, whether Geno's going to be your guy or not, by the time the confetti falls there in Vegas for the Super Bowl. But you're right. It is going to be fascinating kind of moving forward, because you got a draft coming up with you got some, Caleb Williams right there at the top and Drake May. And then you're going to have, like I mentioned, a couple of guys. I don't know if Bo Nix or Michael Penix make it into the second round. I know, I don't even know, did the Seahawks have a second rounder, right? Because I think they're still.
They do not.
They do not have a second rounder, so maybe looking into the third round and with the amount of quarterbacks, Brady, this year that are hurt and their replacements that are actually playing okay. Like you look at what Gardner Minshew is doing there in Indianapolis. There is definitely going to be some options, whether it's go and get a rookie or maybe go and find somebody else that's kind of, earning some time right with Josh Dobbs in Minnesota. It is going to be a fascinating situation.
It is, yeah. And I just think it is down as easy as it is to get, sort of down on Geno and his long-term prospects as the Seahawks quarterback. I do think it is worth kind of taking a step back and just looking at some of the quarterback situations around the NFL. I think you'll realize that the Seahawks, even with Geno on his contract, like they're still in a better position than a lot of teams. You would certainly take Geno and his contract over, Daniel Jones, over, what's going on in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill, who looks like he's on his way out. I mean, you go up and down the list of these guys making big money and not living up to it, or guys that teams that have quarterbacks that they don't even know if they're worth paying or not. Now, on the flip side of that is you've got some teams who have hit the lottery on draft picks at quarterback, and Brock Purdy is probably the best example of that. But there's other teams in there that, Sam Howell, I think he was a third-round pick. He looks like he's maybe Washington's long-term guy. And the takeaway there for me is that this team has to do a better job of keeping that pipeline at quarterback stocked. It's amazing to me, Justin, that I think it's been, 13, 14 drafts under Pete Carroll and John Schneider, they've taken only two quarterbacks. Obviously, Russell Wilson in 2012, and then a guy named Alex Magoo in 2018 who didn't pan out. That's incredible.
Well, Magoo didn't make it? I mean, man, I missed that one.
Yeah, with a name like that, how can you not make it? But, yeah, I mean, look, and I get you don't necessarily draft a quarterback just to draft one, but I think two quarterbacks in 13, 14 years, and that's just not good enough. And you see these other teams, that quarterback, a mid to late round flyer, like that can be a lottery ticket in your hand. And we've seen the 49ers, they won the lottery with Brock Purdy as the final pick of the draft a couple years ago. We've seen other teams, you win the lottery, but guess what? You can't win the lottery unless you play it, Justin.
That is true. 100% true right there. Brady Henderson from ESPN.com joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Now, Brady, you and I, we spent some time together there in Seattle. You've spent, obviously, time since then, and there have always been some colorful characters around Pete Carroll coach teams, and even maybe some players prone to some emotional outbursts. And you just kind of know that, with Pete Carroll and that you guys are going to play on that emotional edge. And I feel like a lot of fans can, I think, maybe compartmentalize some of the things that are said and done when you are winning, but when maybe you are not winning, the compartmentalization doesn't happen. What I'm talking about is I've seen some defensive players threaten colleagues of ours at particular times. Yeah. But you know what? The Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl back then, so we didn't talk about it. Now, when you're 6-6 and Jamal Adams is calling a reporter's wife ugly on Twitter, well, now we may have a bit of a problem, and it's been an interesting situation since the tweet got taken down, but Jamal Adams didn't really apologize, kind of doubled down. Pete Carroll did what Pete Carroll does, which was, I'm not even sure what he said. What a crazy situation going on there. And obviously, I know it shouldn't be based upon the wins and losses, but it always kind of is. What is your kind of feeling from the Jamal Adams social media thing going on? It seems to be a big topic all over the NFL, which is not good for the Seahawks.
It's an ugly incident, really unfortunate, and I'll kind of refresh the listeners here without using the reporter's name, because I think Adams has already needlessly brought a lot of attention on his wife, and I don't think there's any other reason to do that. So I'm not going to name any names here, but the reporter is a New York-based reporter who, after the game Thursday night, he reposted a video of Adams getting beat for the go-ahead touchdown in that Dallas game by Jake Ferguson. And the comment that the reporter included on the video was, yikes. Now, Adams, apparently he and this reporter have history because the reporter covered Adams during his time with the Jets, and Adams felt like this guy continually goes after him, and he felt like that was a personal attack, even though to me, I think to a lot of people, it just looked like a football reporter commenting on a football play. And Adams went to this reporter's Instagram profile, found a picture of his wife, copied the photo, reposted it on Twitter, and used the same comment. Yikes. So he was making a comment about this woman's looks, which is every bit as inappropriate as it sounds. I mean, it's one of the worst tweets I've ever seen from an athlete. And I think it's one thing for Adams to do that in the heat of the moment. It's still unacceptable to do it in the heat of the moment. I think it was, actually, I think it was the day after the game. So it wasn't even still in the heat of the moment. But at any rate, yesterday when we talked to Adams, that was 6 days after the game. So there's no more heat of the moment excuse. And we talked to Adams right after Pete Carroll spoke with reporters in his press conference, and somebody asked Carroll what he thought of it, and he said, he expressed his disapproval of it. It wasn't, a strong admonishment of it, but he clearly disapproved of it, said that said that Adams knew that he needed to take it down, and that Carroll said, I think, quote, "We don't want to have any part of that," or something like that. So he disapproved of it. Well, we talked to Adams a few minutes later, and he doubles down on it. And it was clear, by the way, that he took that post down only at the team's behest, because he then doubled down on it, and he stood by the intention behind the post, which was to get this guy off of his case. And he said, "I hate that I had to bring her into it, but I had to do what I had to do to get this guy off my case." And so it was one of the more surreal moments, just listening to him defend his actions there. And look, I am sympathetic to some degree to athletes getting grief from fans, even from reporters. Like some of the stuff that I'm sure that if you opened up a player's DMs, some of the just disgusting things that you would see from fans that they say to these guys, it would be appalling. But I think that in this case, this is so much more innocuous than some of that stuff. I mean, this is a guy commenting on a football play. Even if there is history there, what Adams did is so, it's so disproportionate. Like going after the guy's wife like that, that's not okay.
Yeah, anybody come after you? You ever have a little spat? You're an even keel guy. You're also a fair reporter. You don't do a lot of criticism. You make more observations. But you ever have anybody come after you?
Nothing like that. I mean, I am pretty measured. And if I criticize a guy, I'm going to make sure that it's not, that nobody could construe it as personal, and it's going to be professional. And so I don't think I really subject myself to that. And if I ever did, I would expect to get some sort of snark back, but I would never expect anybody to go after a member of my family like that. And so,
certainly,
I can't say I've ever dealt with anything to that level. No.
Like I said, I did see a defensive lineman talk to a certain guy we both know. Said he should be both fired and suspended. Don't know how you do that. But
yeah, that's a bit of an oxymoron.
That's an old timer, and also a bit of an inside joke that I don't know if anybody else is getting, but I know you have got a big smile on your face.
Someday that audio will come out.
Someday. I know who's got it. One last thing. This has nothing to do with football, but Brady, you fancy yourself a connoisseur of the pina colada. So I know that your palate when it comes to the potent potables. Right, you're a high class guy. We had a story last hour about things that bartenders say you should never order, and so we got into a bit of a debate over the espresso martini. I am a huge fan. I know I'm a basic B, and it's kind of the basic B drink going on right now. Call me that all day long because I love my espresso martinis. Where are you at? Are you pro espresso martini? Are you anti espresso martini? Have you had one?
Well, first of all, when you say you're a basic B who loves espresso martinis, I'm imagining you doing the boomerang, where you're choosing.
I actually had a younger family member tell me that the boomerangs are for the boomers and that they are gone now, and that the proper thing is to just put a picture on the gram of the cheers, not the boomerang. But yes, but I've definitely done it. Oh, yeah, definitely done it.
Okay. Well, I'll make note of that. Yeah, espresso martini. Sure, it's not my favorite drink, but yeah, I like it. I got an espresso machine on the boat here, and so I every now and again, especially if I'm entertaining, if I got a party of people over here and somebody wants one, I'll whip one up. The ones that you get at the store or at the bar do tend to be better. They're also like $25. I'll tell you a quick story. I was at a bar. I was connecting. I think it was in Salt Lake City or Atlanta or something like that. And I get, for some reason, I think I was tired, and so I order an espresso martini. And lo and behold, when you get an espresso martini, you're thinking, okay, fancy, right? Like this is going to be high quality ingredients. This is a high quality drink. I'm here to tell you that this bartender pulled out one of those cream packets, okay, that you would put in your coffee at like a gas station.
Yeah.
And I thought about just saying, look, I'm out. Like, this is not what I signed up for. When you get in an espresso martini, you don't want a freaking, cream packet that's been sitting out for days. Like, that's not what you want. So, needless to say, it was not the best espresso martini I've ever had.
All right, so your pro espresso martini, just steer clear
Not
at the Atlanta or maybe Salt Lake Airport, depending on which one it is. You know what? Maybe just steer clear at all airports.
It was Detroit. Sorry, I don't mean to disparage, needlessly disparage those airports. It was the Detroit airport.
Detroit Airport. I'll steer clear of the espresso martini at the Detroit Airport because you're going to get the Coffee Mate powder creamer to throw on top of probably 5-hour-old coffee in that mix. Hey, Brady, thanks so much for your time, bud. You can follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brady Henderson. You can read his stuff at ESPN.com, and you can hear from time to time on this particular radio show. Hey, have a great time. If I don't talk to you, bud, have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, you too, my friend. Love you long time. See you later.
There you go, Brady Henderson, boys and girls. We have got the RCM mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
Justin firing up the big mailbag today. Hope everyone's doing well here on a Thursday. Let's see. What would be worse, Justin? Doubling your height or doubling your weight?
Well, I may have not quite doubled my weight. I've been close, but it's not good. Let's see.
You would be 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
Well,
doubling
12
your
feet,
height
no,
would be
12,
worse.
you're
Yeah,
over 6.
done and done. Yeah, doubling your height would be worse, right?
You wouldn't try to go play
I have
basketball?
been a bigger man. I have been an obese man. It was not a fun existence, but I could get around. You know what I mean? I could sit on an airplane. You know what I mean? If you were 11 feet tall, like, where are you going? Right? You can't travel. Couldn't drive a car. I watched a documentary about Andre the Giant. And Andre the Giant was like 7'4". At least that's what they said. Nobody argued it. And like 500 bills. And like they talked about how like he would when he was wrestle, he would fly to Japan to do all these wrestling events. And it was like, yeah, he couldn't go to the bathroom because he didn't fit in an airplane bathroom. But yeah, way worse to be that tall.
Yeah, so
how could you get around?
Well, here's the thing.
Nothing would be made of you. You'd bump your head on every ceiling.
Well, it's never happened, right? So that's the thing is this is actually kind of silly because like there are plenty of cases of people being very heavy. The tallest person in the world belongs to the United States, Justin, 8'11".
Who's 8'11"? Are they no longer with us?
Back in, he only lived to be 22 years old back in the early 1900s. So
what was his name?
Robert Wadlow.
Robert Wadlow.
8'11". Tallest verified
I think I've
human.
seen pictures of that dude because we used to always get the Guinness Book of World Records in the library. Like, it's time for silent reading. It's like it was a race to the Guinness Book of World Records.
I remember that, yeah.
Because I don't want to read a regular book. So I was like, all right, let's see who the tallest guy in the world is. And so, yeah, I remember that pictures of that dude. 8'11".
Yeah.
Gosh,
Could you
being
imagine?
9 feet tall. Like, how do you... Okay, you know how they say nobody in this world is 5'11"?
Right.
Right, because if you're 5'11", you tell everybody you're 6 foot, and if you say you're 5'11", you're actually really 5'10". Like, if you are 8'11", don't you just tell people you're 9 feet tall? I mean, I'm sure for the world record they had to measure him, but do you think old, what's his name again?
Robert Wadlow.
Robert, do you think old Bobby was like, I'm a 9-footer?
He might have been I mean, for me, it's just it's really hard to comprehend because, like, for me, I grew up, Yao Ming was in the league. He was the tallest guy I remember ever seeing play in the NBA. And I think he's got a couple inches on Shaq. Yao Ming was 7'6". So to know that this guy...
Huge. What was Sean Bradley?
Let's look. And
How tall was Sean Bradley?
And just to know that this guy we just talked about is 1.5 feet taller than Yao. Oh my goodness. Sean Bradley was 7'6".
All right.
So, and then Yao was 7'6". So they're the same.
And then Manute Bol. I think Manute Bol might have been taller than all of them.
You're right. He may have been 7'6".
Boom. So Bradley and Manute Bol.
And Yao all at 7'6".
All in Yao at 7'6".
That's nuts.
I
So yeah,
forgot how
just
tall
knowing that
Yao-
dude is 1.5 feet taller than them, Justin. Nuts. So yeah, we'll stick with the you'll stick with the double the pounds.
Yeah,
over
well, I
for
mean,
being
if you
9
had
foot
to,
tall.
I prefer to be
Right where you are.
normal sized, yeah. But could you imagine, like, you can't travel?
Oh, I know.
Couldn't
Just
travel
like
it would be uncomfortable.
you need a special car. You'd need a special.
You couldn't drive. You can't drive. You
Well,
couldn't
you
reach
just
a
would need
steering wheel and a pedal.
You'd need
You're
a specially designed car.
But you would be too far. Like, there's no way.
have the
your
wheel
legs,
pop all the way out.
Your legs and you'd have to.
It'd be weird.
You couldn't drive. It would be a mess. So you stretch limo everywhere if you were rich. And it's just like, yeah, this is just a regular car. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks again to Brady Henderson from ESPN.com. Thanks to super producer Brendan. And thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Thursday, everybody. We are back bright and early tomorrow morning. It's a fancy coffee Friday. It's a football Friday. It's a feel-good Friday. And it's coming up in about 21 hours from now. We'll talk to you then here on 620 Rip City Radio.